Hi friends, it's Michelle from Quimby Cottage Knits, and I'm glad you're here today. And if you're returning, I'm glad we're together. And if this is your first time, thanks for stopping by. This is gonna just be quick. It hasn't been that long since my last podcast, but I was kind of excited to tell you some of the things that I have been working on, and it'll be quick. That's fine. I don't mind a quick podcast. Do you? Let me know. I actually like sometimes just a 20 or 30-minute thing. Those ones that are 2 hours, like, good for those girls, but that's a lot, right? So, Quimby Cottage Knits, Michelle Hansen. I am at Quimby Cottage Knits on Instagram. I am MKHANSEN on Ravelry. So I'm really good at doing project pages. If you're new, you can check out my links. At the bottom, there's like a little triangle and you can click on that. And I put notes about everything that I talk about so that you can double back if that's interesting to you. And if it's not, then great. I'm just here to share with you. So let's talk really quickly about what I'm wearing. This is one of those fancy sweaters that I used to make a lot of, and now I don't so much anymore because it's fancier than a pandemic requires. This is a Shibui sweater. It is, I think it's, gosh darn it, now I can't remember the yarns, but it's in my project page. But it's Shibui yarn, and it's a cardigan. So it's by Jennifer Woodhouse. It's called Gwenevere. It has this beautiful leaf lace here, and there's some at the hem as well. I loved knitting it, really happy with it. It's super warm, but like along the lines of a cashmere. So it's not really the kind of sweater that you would wear, to clean your toilets. But it's beautiful and lovely and elegant. I knitted it and I bought these buttons. They're vintage. I got them on Etsy and, really love it. Think it's lovely. But when I first started wearing it, I noticed it felt sort of droopy and it didn't look good unbuttoned. So I always wore it buttoned, and I decided that I would just always wear it buttoned. So I went ahead and sewed it shut. So it looks like a cardigan, but it's actually a pullover. It's knitted like a cardigan, but I sewed it right here even, so the flaps don't even show. So it's a real knitted thing, but it would be really nice as a pullover if you wanted to do that. What I did, because this yarn is a silk mohair blend staccato, Shibui staccato, carried with Shibui silk cloud. There's a lot of silk, so it's really drapey, which is lovely. But I think it needed to be a little firmer for me. And what I did to reinforce the back of this was I lined it with ribbon. Look at that. So we used to be beekeepers, urban beekeepers. And we don't have bees right now, but we did have them for about like maybe 10 years. Anyway, this ribbon has bees on it. And I just stitched it in the back behind the buttons to give the buttons something to hold on to. And then I did it, I guess I didn't do it on the buttonhole side. Yeah, I'm feeling that I didn't do it on the buttonhole side. Sometimes I do it on the buttonhole side as well and then cut buttonholes and sew them, but that's a lot of work. It is a really nice detail, but I didn't. So when I do cardigans, a lot of times I will sew a piece of ribbon behind the side that holds the buttons, because the buttons, take a lot of manipulation, and I want to firm that fabric up a little bit. And it's also kind of a nice way to put a little secret detail in your sweater that probably only you'll see, but that's one of the benefits of being able to control every detail of what you make, right? So I did that. If you want to see a picture of me standing up and all of that, you can look on my Ravelry page for that. What I finished was only this. Look how fun these are. So initially I was going to make these for Sarita Hansen for Valentine's Day. I swear to you, she picked out the yarn. She says she didn't. And she also says she doesn't need more socks. I don't know why that is. But I have someone else that these are mine for, so they will go to her. But initially I was going to knit a pair of socks for Sarita and a pair for Sabine. So this was the only thing I finished, were these pair of socks. And this is a really fun stripy yarn, and I loved it. And I decided to make some socks for Sabine Hansen as well. I have one done. And I have started the second one, so I'm not as far as I might like to be. This is Turtlepurl yarn. and it's called Trench Coat, and it looks like Burberry, and that is right up Sabine Hansen's alley. So if that's up your alley too, you can stalk it. I had to buy it on Etsy. It was a little stalkerish, but I am happy with the results. I also bought the mini for the cuffs, the heels, and the toes. Her feet are a little bit bigger than mine, so I have to knit 68 stitches here. Wasn't sure how much that would take, so I only did a 12 stitch cuff, and I did, or 12 row cuff, and I did a 3x1 rib just to be a little bit different, and I think she'll be pleased with them. Good news though, so she winds them. They come in 2 matching sets so that you can make them exactly matching. Look. So this is the first ball. Here's the second, right? So here's the first ball. I weighed this and it has 23 grams. So that's good because 25 would be half. So I used just slightly over half, and then I still have yarn of this left over, which I'll weigh before I'm done. But I could use, you know, a white or something like that if I wanted to stretch these, but I might be able to get 2 pairs. They may not be exactly the same length, or maybe they would be, because I would cast on probably 64 if I was making these for most women that I knit for. So I might be able to get another pair, although to be honest, I don't know if I will want to cast on another pair in the same yarn. Sometimes I get tired of knitting with yarn back to back. Do you? Don't worry, I have plenty of other things to knit, but I always like to have a sock going, and it would not be a big deal to go ahead and knit these up as well. So 1 done, 1 more to go, 1 mostly more to go. So that's one thing I'm working on. Another thing I'm working on are these headbands, and I had knitted 6 or 7, maybe 8. I can't remember how many I knitted, but I knitted a bunch of these together, and I talked about it last time. And then this one I actually took the time to embroider, and look at that. Isn't it beautiful? This is the headband by Blooming Handmade and Carolyn Bloom. I loved doing this. I didn't weave in my ends. As you can see, it took a couple, because you do some horizontal embroidery and then some vertical embroidery. And I didn't weave in the ends yet. This is the back side. Isn't it cool? I mean, even with the ends kind of floating around, it's kind of cool. So I still have to pick up along this edge here, because as you can see, it's not, you know, it still needs something to go underneath. But I just thought it was really, I was really pleased to do it, and it was really satisfying. So I have a bunch of these to go. They're not all going to be like this. I think I'm going to try something else on the next one, but I haven't worked on that because I have some other not knitting projects that I'm working on, right? So there's that. So this is still technically in progress. And then I wanted to show you the progress on my baby gift. So let me just tell you this. It was such a genius idea to knit Christmas stockings as a wedding gift. And to be honest, it's great to know exactly what your baby knit is going to be when that person starts having a baby, that couple starts having their babies. But I kind of resent this, like, it almost feels like a job, right? To knit a Christmas stocking when I'm not sure that I really want to be. So anyway, but I'm doing it because babies are a blessing. Babies are a blessing. Babies are a blessing. All babies are a blessing. And also I love the parents of this baby, so I'm putting it into a blessing. But I do wish that I didn't have, why did I knit such big stockings to begin with? Next time I do this, first of all, I'm only going to do it for people that I created. So probably only my children will be offered this service, although I do have one friend I would be willing to knit these for. But seriously, the next ones are definitely going to be shorter, because I have the foot done. Look at this stocking. These are way bigger, by the way. This already is bigger than the stockings the full stockings that we use at Christmas at the Hansen house, because, I mean, look at how big everything would have to be to fill this up. Look at how many diamond tennis bracelets Mr. Hansen would have to buy me to fill up this stocking. He doesn't watch, so. Anyway, this is the stocking, the foot part of the stocking, and I did the heel. It's a weird kind of heel the way it's set up. I don't know if I like it actually, but you know, I didn't like it really on the other ones either, but I didn't change it either. I think if I were going to do, I don't know, it's fine. It's just a stocking. It's not like you're going to wear it, but it is kind of a weird way to do a heel. I've never done a heel like this before. Oh, you know why? I bet because it's toe up. And I don't knit toe up socks. So I bet you that's why. Now I wonder, I need to try like a toe up sock. Because see, the way you turn the heel on the bottom is kind of weird, right? You do this kind of half moon thing. And I remember when I was knitting it thinking it was so weird, but now I know why. And the way that you do the decreases here and here. So that's weird, like that reverse heel flap. Never thought of that before. See, I'm an oral processor, so I'm thinking as I'm talking to you. Isn't that great? Thank you for helping me think that through. So I am, you know, this much through it. So now I have to still knit 8.5 inches of pattern, this, from here. So I mean, that might be 1 inch. So I still have 7.5 inches to go. And then I have to knit the big chunk of red so that you can white over the name. And here's the problem. The groom's name was Joel, so that's the J, and it's, you know, big. And then OEL, so his was, you know, this big. The bride's name was Margot, so you have the M, the T that stands up tall, and then the G that goes down below. So her red part is bigger than his red part because of her name. The baby isn't born yet, due in March. I started it now because I know it took a while for me to knit these last time. I think at least it took me a month. And so I wanted to make sure I had plenty of time to do it. I'm not sure yet how I'm going to do it. I might just get to that red part and knit it to the Joel part and then wait for the baby's name to knit the rest of it. And then there's a little border on the top that will match this border here before you bind off, and then I'll knit a little I-cord loop. So I think I might have to do it that way. I think I might have to do it that way. So anyway, I'm, you know, knitting along, and these are 50-gram balls, and I'm this far on the 50-gram balls, although this white was left over from one of the parents' white, so it's not taking as much white. But I have 1 ball of each of these, and I know I'm going to have plenty of yarn because I bought a ton, anticipating that I was going to be knitting these stockings, and then also I want to knit some Christmas ornaments. And by a ton, I mean because I'm knitting Christmas ornaments, so I knit plenty. I probably could knit 1 more stocking like this, and so I have a little bit left over, but I'm not a stasher, as you know. I don't do a big stash. So I have that going too. So those are the only 2 things on my needles. Something else I wanted to talk to you about, though, was I had a birthday recently, and I got a present in the mail, which from a dear, dear friend, which I love. And I just wanted to show you that she knit me these socks, which are beautiful. I can't tell you anything about the yarn. They're not my project. But what I can tell you is this. They're longer than my normal socks because I wear them kind of scrunchy. I've worn these twice and not washed them yet, so that's why they look kind of lumpy. But they were beautiful and perfect when they came. But this is that magic heel that, who made these? The Autumn Acorn has a pattern called Magic Heel. So it's some kind of, I don't know exactly how she does it, but there's some kind of ribbing along this heel, but otherwise it's a tube sock. So if it was clean, it would kind of cinch in right here. And I wore these around the house, but I also wore them in my boots. They are, I think they're knit with fingering weight yarn. It feels like fingering weight, so they're not super thick, but they are longer than usual. I will tell you, they were perfectly comfortable. So given to me, I was told these are for house socks, for walking around in the house. They fit fine in my winter boots. I also, because I go for a walk every day, 3 miles. Gotta keep your heart healthy, ladies and gentlemen. So 3 miles every day. I wore these in my winter boots. They were fine. They didn't slip around. I also wore them 2 days in a row because they're wool and you can do that. And I wore them in my sneakers that day and ran some errands, and they were fine in those also. What I will say is that they're pretty loose now because I wore them twice, so I definitely need to wash them again. I'm not anti those socks. I think that the heel fits fine. It's comfortable, but it really isn't as snug and stay put as a regular heel flap, which is my favorite, or even the Fish Lips Kiss Heel, which is what I'm doing, you know, on these socks. So that little bend does help, but those aren't bad. So if you're intimidated at all about turning a heel, either toe up or cuff down, and you really though desire some socks, try those Magic Heel socks. I think you should try them. I don't think they're perfect. I mean, they're not a replacement, but they are fine. They're totally fine. And I could absolutely see, I mean, especially for kind of some mindless knitting, just you might like it. So that's what I want to say. You know, I'm sitting on the floor, so sometimes I have to readjust. Sorry. But, you know, our house is kind of busy these days with everybody at home. Not everybody, but just Sarita and Mister, and he had some calls downstairs. So I always feel a little bit awkward talking when my people can hear me. Because you guys get it, but they kind of, they mock me a little. So anyway, again, the Magic Heel sock, I think you should try it if you're nervous about them. It's not a total replacement, but it's a really good substitute. So I think you should do it if you're waiting on that. Okay. And then I have two more things I want to talk to you about. One is this yarn. I wound it up. This is for my Koro Koro shawl, which I haven't had a chance to cast on yet, or swatch, which I do plan to swatch. Remember last time I said I wasn't sure how it looked? I did a couple of black and white pictures, which I'll insert here. I think it's going to be fine. Here's why. This is super bold. I don't think I would actually wear this as a shawl. I might, but it would not be something I would probably choose to wear all the time. I don't mind this color. I think it's flattering on me, but it's pretty bold. And I lean more towards greens and golds usually than this orange, but I love it. And I have some things this orange. I don't think I would wear these two colors together if I didn't tone it down a little bit with this. So even though it might not really pop loudly, I still think it might be okay. I'm going to swatch it and see, and then we'll talk about it again later. So I don't have any plans to swatch it right this second, but these two are really wound up and I am eager to start that. I get a little bit obsessed about things, and right now I'm obsessed with Hamilton. Not just the musical, but also all the historical reading, because I like to do a deep dive and stuff. So remember we talked about it, not last time, but the time before, and I know we talked about it. At least I talked about the Tilar Mazzeo book about Eliza Hamilton. I'm really kind of upset about the Ron Chernow book, and here's why. There's lots of things about it that are very interesting, but and I have no beef with most of it, but I'm really thinking a lot about history and about stories and about the overriding narrative that we all live with right now, because it was just there. The overwhelming idea is that Hamilton said that he had an affair, and all the historians up to Tilar say, yeah, that's what happened because that's what Hamilton said, and that's super embarrassing, so that must be the truth. And it doesn't occur to anybody that he might have really done the speculation. So let me just say a couple of things that came out of the Ron Chernow book that sort of annoy me, because I wish that he had looked at, I feel like he was just a little bit too admirational about Hamilton, and it kind of clouded his view about things. Here are some things, just some paraphrases that I noticed. One thing is that when Ron Chernow talks about it, he says, well, Mariah Reynolds was super smart because she was able to manipulate Hamilton in this like sexual way, but she wasn't really that smart because she wasn't able to keep the ruse going. But she was sort of smart because she was able to, she and her husband were able to, do this whole thing. But then they were not really that smart because that whole thing like is annoying to me, because it tells me that there's this overwhelming story going on that women are so titillating that men can't stand to just walk past them and say, oh, no, thanks. I mean, come on. I mean, I know I know I'm very sexy, and men are always, as I walk by, saying, oh my gosh, I don't know. It just really annoys me. Also, even Ron Chernow says that given the time frame that this Mariah Reynolds affair was supposed to happen, he can't figure out how Hamilton would have had time to do this, given all the work that he was doing and how prolific he was in his writing and other things that he was doing. So let's use some common sense. And there's one line where he questions what happened. And one of the lines that he says is something like, somebody from Hamilton's time, I forget who it was, said that he was surprised that Hamilton was able to get himself wrapped up in something like this for such a smart man. It seemed like such a foolish thing to do. Yeah, it is. So why do we all just take Hamilton's word for it? And I'm not saying he wasn't a great man, blah, 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 right? But let's be honest, there's two sides to everything. And then here's the real thing. He was accused of giving, and there are receipts for this in letters and all kinds of things. Hamilton himself can produce these receipts. He gave James Reynolds $1,000 in the 1790s. Want to know how much that's valued at today? $27,000. Can you afford a $27,000 bride? And you might say, oh, but Hamilton was rich. But Hamilton was not rich. All through every book that you read about Hamilton, Hamilton was not rich. He did not have a lot of money. He never did. He was in public office, for crying out loud. He was an orphan. He came from nothing. He built himself up. It's a great story, what have you. But he did not have a lot of wealth. And when he died, he left his widow in debt. True story. So can you really afford to give $1,000? And guess how much Hamilton made? Like $1,000 in his job. Yeah. Can you afford to give all of your salary to somebody who's speculating? And then, so that doesn't even make any sense. Where did all that money come from? I believe he was speculating. Do I think, and at that time it was illegal. Do I think it makes him not a great man? No, he certainly did all the things that he did for our political system. He definitely was a deep thinker. He created a lot of things. We have the two-party system partly because of him. And I think we should have at least a two-party system, to be honest, right? We should have several more parties, if you ask me. Not that nobody asked me that. I probably should edit that out. Anyway, the point is, it really annoys me that we can't look at our founding fathers with, why do we have to look at them with rose-colored glasses? That's all I'm saying. Nobody looks at me that way because, so anyway, that kind of burns my butter. So if you guys have read it, let's talk about it. Or maybe not, but there you go. Also, Mariah Reynolds was accused of being a prostitute. She divorced her husband, and the day she was granted a divorce, she was able to remarry. In those days, women who were open prostitutes weren't able to get husbands. Come on. It just doesn't add up. And it just kind of annoys me that, I don't remember when this Ron Chernow book was written, like maybe in 2016 or something. I get it, but I just wish that we could look at it differently. If you're interested in reading like a blurb, like the smallest blurb ever, there's a 2-sentence blurb about it in the Mariah Reynolds Wikipedia. I know that that's not the best place for you to look for those things, but it is cited from the Tilar Mazzeo book that I read, in case you don't want to read the whole book. And maybe you don't, but I will say it's a good book, and it gives you a really good picture of Hamilton and Eliza. And Eliza was a strong woman. Just one more thing, and then I'm going to get off my soapbox. But also, Hamilton was beloved by his in-laws, all of them. He wrote letters to his father-in-law, to his sisters-in-laws, and his wife. So there's all these letters that give a flavor of what their relationship was like. And in all of them, all of those people, they admired Hamilton right to his death. So let me ask you something. If your daughter, your sister, had been publicly shamed in that way, and he really was guilty of that, of having illicit affairs, do you really think that you would still write him a loving Christmas card? I wouldn't. Grace of God and all of that, but still, I just know how I roll. So either they're way better people than I am, or I think it's a little bit fishy. Also, there is no other evidence, none, of Hamilton having an affair, and he and his wife were very beloved to each other. They wrote very loving letters back and forth to each other their whole lives. So that's all I'm going to say about it. And then one more thing I want to tell you about. Somebody mentioned earlier about that little spot that I had on my finger, something to get, and I will tell you, I got this liquid bandage, and I bought the CVS brand because that's how I roll. but it's kind of like a super glue, and you put it on your wound, and it's thick. It feels like there's something on your finger. But it really helped. And look, it's fine now. See that? It's fine now. And I think we should all have one of these in like our knit bag or just somewhere handy, right? We don't need to have 13 of these all over our house unless you do, which is fine if you do. Like I have chapstick stashed in every room just in case of emergency. I don't like to have dry lips. But this was a great thing. So I thought I would tell you that. Thanks for spending the day with me. Thanks for letting me get on my little high horse. I just really feel for Mariah Reynolds in this. And I have to tell you about it. I'm compelled. So thanks for just thanks. I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope you're having a great week. I hope you're knitting. I'm doing a little bit of knitting myself. I will say the days are getting a pinch longer, and it is changing my outlook for sure. We've had a couple of sunny days in a row. Like, I don't know what's up with that. Don't worry though, we get snow at night. So you wake up in the morning and you have to do a little bit of shoveling, and then there's some sunshine. And so that's been really nice for my walks. Even though yesterday when I went for my walk, it was, I think, 15 degrees. It was the first time that I had been out for a walk in probably 5 days where my face didn't sting from being out in the cold. It's been cold here. And I was kind of grateful. Like, who knew that 15 could be balmy? So that's why we have these really, really cold days, so that we can remember 15 is a blessing, right? So I hope that you guys are finding some kind of blessing in your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.